Wednesday, all smiles here on Bet On It, powered by Wager Talk TV. I'm Kelly Stewart at Kelly in Vegas, and we finally had a really good team weekend between the college and the NFL show, mainly because I did not just get an insurmountable amount of these. That being said, we're going to try to keep that momentum going. Marco D'Angelo, our lone best bet loser in the NFL show. You know, I really just expect better from him. He is supposed to be picking up the slack, but Joe Raineri had that job over the weekend. Outside of that under in London and the Colts, Marco, pretty good for me. How was your weekend, though, for your clients?
College was great. NFL, not so much. NFL was not a fun Sunday for me. And yes, one of my games was that Tampa Bay game that you talked about. And we're at on Sunday and enjoying it. And I guess we are seeing the Cleveland Baker Mayfield coming back to the surface here in Tampa. But you know what? I can't complain on the season, Kelly. It's been good and looking forward to a big weekend this week. Let's get it both in the college and the NFL this week.
I always got to give these guys on the panel some love or some hate. You know, just got to make myself feel better whenever I am the one that drops the ball. Joe Raineri, how was your weekend in the NFL?
It was outstanding. First, let's just say this will never happen again where both my dogs on the NFL and the college football show win outright, and both of those dogs were the New York Jets and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So that'll never, ever happen again. I'm sure of that, where the Jets and Okie State end up pulling the upsets as dogs on the same day. But other than that, it was a great weekend. So it's some exciting games coming up, a little more shall we say, with the bye weeks now coming into play. So we're ready to go here in week 7.
Yes, we are. Let's start off with those primetime games. Thursday night, looking at the Wager Talk odds screen, Jacksonville is a 1-point dog at New Orleans. Pretty much 39. No, I lied. 40.5, 40, kind of bouncing back and forth here on the screen. Marco, I'm going to go to you first. Doug Peterson never lost on Thursday night is going to be a big talking point this week.
Yeah, it's going to be, and that means nothing to me as far as this goes. What does mean something to me is looking at the scheduling situation that you have for Jacksonville. Now, we know that Trevor Lawrence got banged up in last week's game. All indications right now look like he'll be a go, but I've got to look at the schedule. If you remember, Jacksonville just played 2 games in London. All right. Then they had to come back home for a divisional game. And, full disclosure, I was on Indianapolis in that game, just like every other sharp I know in Las Vegas was on that game. And, when everybody lines up on one game like that, it tends to have a bad outcome, and that it did. But it was a spot where, coming back from London and then having to play a divisional game, laying points, I just thought it was the right spot for Indianapolis to get the job done. Plus, Indianapolis had already lost to Jacksonville earlier in the season. Why am I bringing all of that up? Because by Jacksonville winning that game, they have a 1-game lead in the division. It's actually a 2-game lead because they own the tiebreaker now, winning both meetings. So after playing a very important divisional game, after playing 2 games in a row in London, now you don't get a bye week. Usually teams after London, they slide them the bye week and such. No, you play a division game, and now you got to turn around and play on 4 days on the road in a absolute meaningless game. Every game is meaningful, don't get me wrong, but when you go down the list of the schedule on the season, the least important game on a team's schedule is their non-conference road games. That's at the bottom of the list when you get to tiebreakers. For the Saints, different win, try to stay in the race. I like New Orleans in this game. I'm playing the spot, guys. I'm a situational handicapper. The spot screams for the Saints. And if you got a banged up Trevor Lawrence, that just makes it all the better. Give me the Saints. I'll lay the points. They come away with the win. That's my play for Thursday night primetime.
Joe Raineri, we know that the unders have been cashing at a really nice rate. The Jags under has gone under 4 of the last 6 times as well. So kind of leaning towards that here. Saints 6-0 towards the under. I mean, could we have any more arrows? Yet the money is going over.
Yeah, well, not with my money, it's not. Absolutely not. Learned my lesson last week when how dare I take that over in the Saints game against Houston. We only got 727 yards of total offense and couldn't get more than, a 20-13 game here. And a short week here for both of these teams. Thursday night games have been historically awful. But I'll tell you what they've been really bad in. They've been extremely bad in the first half, where we're lucky to get ourselves even so much as a touchdown. I'll say this about Jacksonville. The defense has really taken over. And they got their stud linebacker, Devin Lloyd, back last week. Also, don't forget Dwayne Smoot, who was their leading sack getter a year ago until he blew out his Achilles last December. Last week against Indy was his first game back here. So this defense here, Indy didn't even try to run the ball. Jacksonville dared them to try to run the ball, and Indy figured out rather quickly, we're not going to have any luck here. If New Orleans can't run the ball, and they're going to have to rely on Derek Carr's arm, this is not going to end well one way or the other. It's a toss-up game at best. I want nothing to do with the side. What I do want is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Cal. I'm with you. Give me the first half under here. It's 20. I don't see us getting 3 touchdowns in the first half of this game against these two defenses. So that's the way I'm looking at this one.
All right, moving right along. Sunday night prime time. Miami now a 1.5-point dog on the Wager Talk odds screen. Total 52. I'm not overthinking it. I said this last week on the show with Pam. I need teams to pass the eye test. We ended up on the Jets. I didn't think the Jets were going to win that game, but boy, oh boy, did they. Now we've got the Miami Dolphins and that high-octane offense. Tua well on his way to 2,000 passing yards halfway through the season. I like the Dolphins here in a teaser, but Marco says not so fast.
Well, Kelly, not so fast is right here. And, I just don't want the producers to shut my mic off. So I'm going to stay with Philadelphia in this one. And I'll kiss up to our producer, Dan. But all seriousness, Miami is going to be popular. In Miami on teasers, I'm going to see so many teasers with Miami on Sunday night. And, I get it. But remember, Kelly, it's a high total, meaning there's going to be a lot of points scored. So the variance there, just maybe tap the brakes just a tad on those teasers. I look at Philadelphia and you look at what Miami did last week, and yeah, you want to bet them. But Miami's not going against Carolina this week. And Philadelphia is not going against one of the best defenses in the NFL in the Jets. And yeah, I was on the Jets too last week. It was one of my lone bright spots for the NFL card on Sunday. But I always say, give me the better team, getting points, the better defense. And that was clearly the Jets. This week, Philadelphia, I think, will be able to slow that Miami offense down just enough. And I'm sorry, who is Miami shut down offensively this year? Anybody that has any kind of offense has scored on them. I think this will be a track meet, but I like Philadelphia at home. I probably should tear a page out of Joe's playbook and look at that Philadelphia first half wager. I have no problem with that, but I'm going full game. It's Sunday Night Football. Philadelphia gets back into the win column. I like Philly. Going to be a barn burner, 35-27, Philadelphia.
If you guys remember, Marco was a buzzkill about my teaser on the show last week for Monday Night Football. No sweat, just in case you guys cared. Joe Raineri, I know that the Dolphins is a square side. I don't really care. They're going to be the dog with fleas. Everybody expects the Eagles to bounce back after that loss. But I think, and I was betting against this team. I bet against them with the Bucs, and I bet against them with the Rams. And I thought, these two defenses are going to be able to make Jalen Hurts make mistakes. And they did. while they weren't able to equate that to a win. Jets defense just a little bit better. I know Miami doesn't play a lot of defense here, but is Jalen Hurts broken?
That snapshot of him at the end on the bench there was like what happened? But that's usually what happens when you sign, you know, $190 million guaranteed contract, is those looks tend to go like, I really don't give a crap that I just threw this INT. I hope it's not like that, but that could very well be. But maybe the worst thing to happen to Miami here was the fact that the Jets did beat the Eagles outright. And here's the problem that I have with Miami. And although I agree with you here, there is something wrong with this Eagles offense. I said it from the beginning. The losing of both coordinators was not great here for Philadelphia here. They are dealing with some injuries. Ryan Johnson is not Steichen, and we're seeing it. For 6 weeks, we have seen it now. That offense in key situations, there are some head-scratching play calling there going on. Did not, as far as I was concerned, didn't try to run the ball enough against the Jets here. They get into the red zone. There's no urgency. It's a strange situation. But what I do expect, and I think Marco was alluding to it, I expect Philadelphia to come out pissed off and come out red hot. Now, and I think if Miami can weather the storm early, and keep it within one score in the second half, anything is possible. But until the Dolphins prove to me and everyone else that they can go up against the more dominant defenses, they didn't against Buffalo. The Patriots, when fully healthy, caused them all sorts of problems as well. Until they can take a top-rated defense and do what they are doing to Carolina, let's say, I'm hesitant, but I'm not hesitant at Philadelphia early in this matchup, and often I think they'll control time of possession. They will run, and more run here. They will go into the lead. They'll have the lead, rather, at the break. It's cheap price here, guys, and we're getting it because the Jets beat them right now. First half money line is the way to go to me, and then leave yourself open for the possibility here to come back in either in the second half on the Dolphins or for the Eagles to run away with it.
Very interesting there with that first half play from Joe Raineri. Let's kick it on over to Monday night. I'm going to kick it back to Joe because, boy, does it look easy. Kirk Cousins in primetime just teased the Niners down to -1, get the win in Minneapolis, and go the hell home after a loss. Do I want to take Kirk Cousins, though? Do I want to take Minnesota? Oh, lots of injury concerns for the Niners. Trent Williams questionable. Christian McCaffrey questionable. George Odom questionable. Deebo Samuel questionable. It is an interesting depth chart there for the Niners, who I still believe are the best team in the league this year. Joe Raineri, walk me through your thoughts on Monday Night Football.
All right, very simple. I don't care who's not playing for the 49ers. You are out of your mind backing Kirk Cousins in Minnesota early in any game. It is well known, if you haven't figured it out by now, you never, ever, ever back Minnesota in the first half, but you always try to back them in the second half because that's when they seem to figure things out here. They didn't play all that terrible against Chicago. The problem was they couldn't run the ball again. And if you can't run on first down and second down and have an opportunity for 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1, if you've got to drop Kirk Cousins back 40, 45 times in a game, that is a recipe for 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles, and blowout city. And I don't care who's playing for the 49ers. So to me, I always look to back the 49ers because I love Shanahan as a game scripter. Outside of last week, which got away from them a little bit, it's one of the only first halves that they have not covered and won in a very, very long time. But I think they get back to business in this one. They will script against this Minnesota team a game plan that will find them ahead by the time we go to the break. And I am not backing Kirk Cousins. They can't run the ball. The best weapon is out. San Francisco will have the lead. It's just a matter of how much. I think it's 3.5 in the first half. I fully anticipate San Francisco to get right early and often. And I wouldn't count out Minnesota in the second half, playing from behind like they do so often. But in this game, give me the team that has proven They have the better head coach, the better game plan, better execution early, no matter who's playing. I'm going with the 49ers in the first half.
Well, we all knew regression was coming for the Vikings, Marco. I didn't think it was going to hit them this hard. It has hit them very hard. 3-8-1 against the spread in their last 12 games. 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 games at home. The over, maybe, on Monday Night Football? I don't know what to do with this one.
Yeah, remember when Minnesota once upon a time was 11-0? I do remember that. Seems
in
like
one-score games?
decades.
Yes, I do remember it. That was great. I really like that for me.
Yeah, this is a spot for Monday night. We're taping on Wednesday, okay? There's so many unknown factors with all of the injuries to the 49ers, and they're key injuries because with all of those guys out last Sunday, do you know what we saw? We saw Iowa State Brock Purdy. That's what we saw, okay? He finally showed up. I've been waiting for that guy to come back, and you look at his stat line last week, 12 of 27, 107 yards passing. Ugh, God, no. Do I want to get involved in this game early? Probably not. But if I was going to play this game, there's only 2 ways you can look at it. Joe already talked about one of them, and that is a 49er wager first half, because we know that even with the guys out, you're going to have the injured player theory where everybody's going to rise to the occasion, will come out, give that 110%. We know how good Shanahan is with those first opening drives with the scripted plays, and we know how Minnesota starts slow. So I 100% agree with that. The other end, Kelly joked about it, saying, hey, this is a no-brainer. Just tease the 49ers to win the game. Who do you have more confidence in? The 49er defense or Cousins in a primetime game? Yeah, I'm going to go with the 49er defense. I'm sorry. Just to find a way to win the game. I'll go ahead. I'll take a teaser. And why not take that teaser now? Because if you do the teaser now, the 6-point teaser, hook them up with something, you're going to get San Francisco at -1, just have to win the game. If we get to Monday night and some of those question marks on who is going to be in the lineup become they're in the lineup, you're going to see the line move, and you'll have the better of the number, and you can do some creative things on Monday the other way if you want. So for me right now, I'll have a couple teasers on the 49ers, and then I'll determine come Monday night if I keep those teasers or if I do something else, moving off of them and looking for a middle.
All right, before we get into some TNA, we have a 30-day all-access special. Here at Wager Talk, you will receive every selection of your favorite handicapper, MLB playoffs, NFL, college football, NHL, NBA is starting. And of course, college hoops is right around the corner in the first week of November. Also, UFC, soccer, and any other thing your favorite handicapper releases for 30 days, just $199 30-day all-access package. As Ralph mentioned in the college football segment, those don't come around very often. Speaking of Ralph, let's get into it. Mr. Ralph Michaels, the man with the pen and all the nerd charts at Cal Sports LV over on Twitter. Ralph, we have a little bit of a bonus segment this week. We're going to add some stuff from your son, Jeff, which has been featured on the Wager Talk Instagram channel. We've got a nerd chart, and then we have 4 trends and angles.
Keely, sometimes information is so simple, but, it's valid. And we talked about it in the college football. When teams are on streaks, it is a good idea to take a look at those teams. Well, this year in the NFL, Kelly, updated through Sunday, there have been 36 overs and 56 unders. That is 61% to the under. So if you look at the streakers page, look on the right-hand side in those over-unders. There's no NFL team with 4 or more straight overs, but the New Orleans Saints, 6 straight unders. The New England Patriots, 5 straight unders. And there are 5 teams with at least 4 straight unders. As far as ATS streaks, 4 straight ATS wins for Houston and Detroit, 6 straight ATS losses for Carolina and Denver, and the Atlanta Falcons with 5 straight ATS losses. Jeff will be giving us the college football and NFL streakers each week, so we'll always start our TNA segment with this great new piece of data.
Yeah, you love to see it, Ralph. Sometimes contrarians such as myself like to step in front of those streaks. And sometimes the streaks just keep on rolling. That under in London last week was a painful one. I had the over. The under was painful with all those field goals being kicked. Maybe I should have listened to Jeff's streakers that you can also get on the Wager Talk Instagram channel at Wager Talk. Ralph, let's see that nerd chart because I have some real questions about this one.
Well, Kelly, the chart has two pieces. These are Thursday NFL games since 2015 for road teams with no bye. So you have 4 days of rest. And when you see the progression in this chart, it makes it so much more powerful. The top part are away dogs. September, Thursday night, away dogs, 58%. October, Thursday night, away dogs, 50%. When we get later in the season and teams get beat up, November, Thursday, away dogs, 38%, and December, 34%. So we have a 4-month progression. As the season progresses, those Thursday teams have a worse record each month. Nothing is stronger for a system or a trend going back to 2015 than that. It's as powerful as it gets. On the bottom in the green are away favorites. September, October, and November, Thursday away favorites, even with no rest, are 60%, a very solid number. And when you get to December, away favorites still 50%. So it's a simple chart, but it makes complete sense. The data proves it. It's going back since 2015. This is one that I have bookmarked and will make sure to pay attention to when fading away dogs on Thursday Night Football, especially November and December.
That is really interesting. A little caveat. What about Thanksgiving games? How do those come into account? Because we do know it is really exciting. Even though it is on a short week, teams get up for those Thanksgiving games.
These records are inclusive of Thanksgiving, Kelly. I did not do Thursday prime time. So, whatever the records are, these are all Thursday games because, yes, you are playing Thanksgiving and you may be excited, but it is still a short week because you don't have a bye, obviously, and you are traveling in a situation. So these numbers are inclusive of Thanksgiving going back for the last 8 years.
Perfect. All right, we've got 4 systems that fit NFL Week 7. Let's hear them.
Well, let's see. This week, Thursday, home favorites, off a loss as a favorite with no rest. So who does that fit? Well, let's see. The New Orleans Saints are playing on Thursday. They're a home favorite. They're off a loss as a favorite. And I ignore game number 1 and 2. Early in the season, it's different. We just talked about away teams being bad. Home favorites like the Saints this Thursday, Kelly, off a loss as a favorite, 23-7, 77%. So System 1 says to play on the New Orleans Saints. System 2 says to fade the Saints. Sometimes the systems go against each other, folks. This is one of the times. It says fade the Saints and fade the Eagles. This one says you're a home favorite, off an away loss, and you are either a dog or a favorite up to a touchdown. So both are away favorites. Both are off a loss. 27-59 against the spread. That is 31.4%. So System 1 is a Thursday specific, says play on the Saints. System 2 says to fade New Orleans and fade Philadelphia. System 3, from weeks 4 on. So I'm ignoring the first 3 weeks of the season when teams are getting settled. You're off a win as a home dog. You have a win percentage over 50%, and you're a favorite. Well, that applies to my Cleveland Browns this week. Those teams only 43-75, 36.4%. This goes all the way back to 2006. So System 3 says to fade Cleveland because they are off a win as a home dog. They have a win percentage over 50%, and they are a favorite. Well, the Browns and the Jets both pulled big upsets and knocked a lot of people out of survivors last week. So how do teams do off a win as a dog when they were a dog of 6 points or higher and now they're on the road? Well, Cleveland and the Jets are both off a win as a dog as a dog of 6 points or higher and are both now on the road. Those teams, 38.3%. That says to fade Cleveland and fade the New York Jets. And Kelly, this one was your request, and of course, I had to share the data. Going back since 2015, game number 5 and higher when a team is off a loss and it's their first loss of the season. So you are at least 5-0, you're off a loss, and the line is you are a favorite of -3 or higher. So the Eagles and the 49ers were at least 5-0. They're off the first loss of the season. Those teams, 33.3% against the spread. And again, it applies to Philadelphia and San Francisco. So that is, again, a favorite of -3 or higher. So System 1 says to play on New Orleans. System 2, fade New Orleans, fade Philadelphia. System 3, fade Cleveland. System 4, fade Cleveland and the Jets. System 5 said fade the Eagles and fade the 49ers.
Good stuff from Ralph Michaels. Per usual, time to take these glasses off so I can actually see, because it's time for Prop Shop. Make sure you guys are giving Ralph Michaels a follow at CalSportsLV. WT.buzz/RM is where you can get all of his nerd charts so that you can print them out and have them in nice, orderly fashion like I like. We're going to kick it over for Prop Shop. Time to see what Andy Lang has up his sleeve for NFL Week 7. There he is with his goofy Price is Right shirt on. Like, what's going on here, Andy? You got a new office. I'm seeing you all over Twitter in Detroit, hanging out with all of our really hard workers over there. And now, what's going on?
So I'm up in Detroit, and me and the Detroit office are going to the Price is Right show here at the Fox Theater. And so I'm recording at the Detroit office. I'm telling Chris to get all of his work done quick so we can get down there and pregame.
Pregame? Oh, we pregame.
Yes.
All right. So what is
post-game, game, pregame? It's have your, we're going with the have your pet spayed or neutered. We all have different colors. Yeah, we all have different colors because when you go as a group, you all have to wear the same shirts.
Yeah, the rules are rules. What can I say? Andy Lang at Bump Sports, at Andy Lang Bets on Instagram. He's been doing a really good job on the Wager Talk Instagram channel. And you wonder why I keep promoting it throughout this entire show. It's because I need you guys to go follow and like so I can pretend like I'm doing my job. Andy Lang, we've got 3 prop bets for our viewers tonight. We're going to start off with Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, let's go with Rashid Shaheed over his longest reception. And shout out to producer Dan Alexander pointed this one out, and it was so good. Got to use it on the show. Rashid Shaheed is their long, deep threat. He averages 18.6 yards per reception. So he's averaging this with every catch. And the Jaguars, the 9th highest yards per attempt. The Jaguars let 2 wide receivers for the Colts have 40-plus yard catches against Jacksonville. If you watched that Saints game last week, an absolutely beautiful 50-yard touchdown pass from Derek Carr. The last 2 games, he's gone over this total. And Derek Carr has been banged up, but he's getting healthier. And with all the attention on Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, you just need one blown coverage or one really nice route from Shaheed. He's gone over this in 4 out of 6 games. Easily gone over the last 2. Let's take the over longest reception for Shaheed to break one long one.
Normally, I ask Andy to give me a prop bet from my best bet, but I was a little tardy this morning on sending my best bets to the Slack channel. So, Andy elected to go with Bucks Falcons instead.
Kelly, I've been talking about this Falcons pass defense, and they are a fantastic unit to bet on, and we're going to keep fading the opposing quarterback. So let's take Baker Mayfield under 232 yards and a half. We talked about this Falcon defense. They held C.J. Stroud under his passing total. Bryce Young, lowest passing total this season against the Falcons. Jordan Love, lowest pass total against the Falcons. Trevor Lawrence, lowest pass total this season against the Falcons. Last week, Sam Howell, 151 yards, easily his lowest pass total of the year. So this Falcons pass defense with A.J. Terrell is fantastic. And if they get up, you know they're going to use Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson to milk the clock. So when we get this Falcons team, we got a lot of things working against it. If they win the time of possession, less opportunities for Baker to go over this total. I'm just going to keep betting on this Falcons pass defense, 4th best in the NFL. Give me Baker under his passing total.
I think Joe Raineri said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I would have to agree with that one, especially after seeing Baker Mayfield for the 2nd time in person this year. Like that one. Andy, as always, I need a best bet from you to close out this segment.
I think the books and the general audience still think this Chiefs team is this high-scoring unit, and it's just not. Let's take the under, 27.5. They've only gone over this total against the Bears, and that one game is kind of inflating their numbers. That was a 41-point game, but this is the 17th best red zone scoring offense with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Their wide receivers are not very good. That's pretty much well known. So it's a lot of Travis Kelce. There's Isaiah Pacheco, but they're just not punching in touchdowns. And the Chargers have held every team under this total except the Miami Dolphins in week 1. I'm really surprised to see this over 24. I think it could be a little bit more of a defensive game. That's what a lot of these Chiefs games have come down to. This 27.5 is way too high. I expect some field goals and some drives to sputter out for the Chiefs. Give me their under team total as my best bet.
Andy, are you high? No, actually, I really like that one. But you know who is? Joe Raineri. Let's kick it back over to Joe and Marco. For Are You High? Maybe the deli's open. And of course, we've got some barking dogs for you. It's a shame. I never thought I'd have to say this disclaimer on the show, but I wanted to say this is a drug-free environment. We'd like to keep all of our subscribers on YouTube because, well, we wouldn't want to get shut down or anything. So the Are You High segment is just a joke. It's just a little play on words. Everybody relax. On that note, Joe Raineri, are you ripping one over there? Can we figure out what Joe's doing?
I'm sorry. Woo! Where are we at? Oh, we're high. Okay, let's look at a game here, Cal, if we can. One that is absolutely, this was easy. And I'm going to look at the Browns and the Colts. And if you currently look at the Wager Dog odds page, you'll see that nearly 98% of the tickets on the total currently are on, guess what? The under. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I am looking at the over. I don't think this is high enough. Now, it was 40.5. It was 39 when it opened. It's gone up to 40. Now 40.5 here. And I think Marco alluded to it a little bit earlier about how this defense of Cleveland is no joke. In fact, I think they have given up the fewest total yards through 5 games. You got to go back to that unbelievable Ravens squad back there in, what was that, 2000 with Ray Lewis and company. Problem is, Cleveland really hasn't played a whole lot of offensive juggernauts. Now, not saying that Indianapolis is a juggernaut, but Indianapolis is 4-2 to the over. In fact, they're 3-3 against the number this year. They're 3-1 against anybody not named the Jaguars against the number this year. They have gone up against the Texans, the Ravens, and the Titans as underdogs, and they have performed very, very well. It's Browns in a bit of a letdown spot here. That ridiculous win over the 49ers with a backup quarterback. But quite honestly, whether it's P.J. Walker or it's Deshaun Watson, I don't care. The issues that plague Indianapolis, especially with Gardner Minshew with the turnovers, is not going to change against this Cleveland defense, which means there is going to be opportunities for pick sixes, short fields, conversions. I do think the Colts are going to have a little more success offensively. And heck, they had a ton of success against Jacksonville in that game. They were well over 300 yards in that game there, but they kept turning the ball over. That's a recipe for an over here. And if they find themselves playing from behind, well, then that's a lot more Gardner Minshew and a lot more mistakes and strip sacks and fumbles can happen. So I'm looking at the over in this one at 40.5. I think the Colts are going to put the ball in the end zone. They're going to have some success here, but I certainly think Cleveland is going to have an opportunity to take advantage of some turnovers in this game by the Colts. So I think the Colts, I hope it get up and over 40 at that point in the game.
All right. Are you high? Not high enough. Shocker, Joe Raineri. Color me shocked. Marco, have you seen that Chick-fil-A commercial where they put that weird pimento cheese thing that I don't understand on a chicken sandwich. That's what I feel like this week's sandwich game is.
Now, Kelly, it is a little bit of a stink bomb of a sandwich. We've got some, Gouda cheese on there, not really a desirable sandwich. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to eat something that's good for you. And we're looking at the situation. And I'm going to go to Green Bay and Denver. And boy, I tell you what, you talk about two teams that are god-awful right now. Here they are. But we've got the Denver Broncos. I vowed that I was done with them a couple weeks ago. And then what happened? Well, they had to play on a Thursday night game. So I had to look at them. Now that they played on a Thursday night game and, they didn't look good. They didn't look bad. They almost covered. Kansas City got the late field goal to get the cover. They are in a sandwich spot this week. And it's a very unique sandwich because usually a team is coming off a big game, then they have a game that's not as big, and then they have another big game. Well, this week, that sandwich involves the same kind of bread on the top of the sandwich and the bottom of the sandwich. They're sandwiched in between Kansas City. They played Kansas City last Thursday. Now they play Kansas City again at home next week. So here they are returning home, looking to bounce back. Everybody's going to say, well, they better get their win this week because they play Kansas City next week. They're not winning. No, I'm not going down that road. I'm not taking Denver in just to pick the winner situation. I've got Green Bay coming off a bye week. How many times have I told you regarding the bye weeks? If a team goes into the bye week on a roll, I'm going to pump the brakes when they're coming out of the bye week because it's a momentum stopper. But if you went into the bye week on a bad note, I like to take that team because they're going to use that 2 weeks to try and right the ship. And I also like it when you've got a young quarterback. Now, I realize Jordan Love's been in the league for a few years now, but he's young as far as games started. And you've had a few games under his belt. Now they get to take that 2-week break, go back to the drawing board, throw out what wasn't working, keep what was, and add some new wrinkles that go to his strengths, what he's done well so far. I like Green Bay coming out of the bye week. I like them catching Denver in between the two sandwich games between the best team in their division and the defending champs. This is a situational spot for me. Give me Green Bay. And oh, by the way, it's not plus the points, but give me the better defense in a pick-the-winner situation here. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take Green Bay. I want no part of that Denver defense that, kudos to them. They held Denver to, a season low, but ain't going to happen this week. Give me the Packers.
Gross, Marco. That is gross. But we all know that you friends don't let friends take the Denver Broncos, like I said last week. So because you don't want to take the worst defense plus the point, maybe I can entice you with a bigger underdog for this week.
Well, Kelly, yeah, we are going to go to not a real big underdog. I'm coming in with Joe's size. We got a little teeny one for you this week. But you know what? Hey, it cashes like Joe says. Doesn't matter, okay? And we're going to take the Atlanta Falcons. I wish you guys could see Joe off there. He cracks me up. I am taking the Atlanta Falcons plus 2.5 points. And this is a spot where I want no part of Tampa Bay. As I said earlier in the show, hey, we wondered where he was at. They sent out milk cartons. Have you seen the Cleveland Baker Mayfield? Well, they found him. He resides in Tampa Bay now. The last couple of weeks have not been good for the Tampa Bay offense. And the Atlanta Falcons, this is a team that I'm going to have two ways, Kelly. I'm going to have them as my barking dog plus 2.5. And you know what else I'm going to have a lot of? I'm going to have a lot of 6-point teasers, taking them up over the key numbers of the 3, 4, 6, and 7, because I don't see Tampa Bay in this offense getting any separation. So this will be a two-headed monster for me. But what Atlanta does is they will try to control the clock. They will run the football. But even as much as we've said that this is a running team first. The passing game has been picking up for Atlanta. If you look last week, they threw for 296. The week before, they threw for 351. If they get the passing game going, and that'll open up the running game even more, this is going to be a long day for Tampa. I am not sold on them. 6 points last week. Yeah, I know the Lions are playing great football this year, but the Lions defense holding them to 6 points, that's just not good. And if you go back 2 games before that, they only scored 11 points against Philadelphia. I'll take Atlanta plus the points. I'm calling it Atlanta 27-17. I like this barking dog.
I'm with you, Marco. Atlanta to the Bills, Atlanta to the Giants, Atlanta to the Colts, Atlanta to the Dolphins. Every which way they will be in my teasers this week. Joe Raineri, you got to have a bigger dog. Come on. It doesn't get any smaller than that one.
Just want to know, Marco, you going to finish that sandwich? Because it sounded pretty good to me. I am going to look here, Marco, at a slightly bigger dog here. And I am going to go with a team that just keeps giving, provided you read them correctly. And that is the Chargers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs at 5.5 here. And listen, we tried telling you last week, right, about this Chargers team. We're talking about now 18 of the last 23, I believe, over the last couple of seasons have been within a touchdown. So win or lose, they don't tend to run away from teams. And this particular battle, especially over the last, I believe they've played 4 times since that wonderful coach of the year, Brandon Staley, took over this team. And every time that I have looked back, these games have ended up in coin flip spots here. We're talking about a field goal here or there. In fact, in all 4 games that Brandon Staley has been the coach here of the Chargers, the last 4, the Chargers have actually either been tied or led going into the 4th quarter. And that should not come as a shock to anybody, because that is who the Chargers are. They lost a game they absolutely could have and probably should have won had Justin Herbert actually threw a pass to Keenan Allen that was delivered on time and not overthrown. They would have had at least 2 more touchdowns in that game. But I'm not worried about it. He's still one of the most prolific passers here. They know each other. This is a division rivalry. The Chargers have never not shown up against this Kansas City Chiefs team. In fact, I don't think they have ever lost a game here within 5 points yet this year. So once again, they play 1-score games. It always comes down to the final couple of minutes, a turnover here, a field goal there. And that's exactly what this is going to be again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Chargers are going to be looking for some revenge. They are going to be up here. They're going to play better offensively than they did last week here. I think the Kansas City defense, maybe it's not, to me, in Dallas's category, although they have been good. I think the Chargers are going to have way more success offensively in this game. They will once again have the lead going in or tied in the 4th quarter, and this is going to be a field goal game at best, one that the Chargers might actually even win here. So I'll take the 5.5 points in a series that has never seen this be a blowout one's way or the other. So I'll take the 5.5 points in this battle.
Oof, I don't know, Joe. I know that Andy talked about how this Kansas City Chiefs offense just isn't what it used to be. This is gross. Divisional road underdog, lower total. Brandon Staley, come on, don't do this to me.
Justin Herbert. They've never lost a game yet by more than 5. How's it going to start now for?
And Justin Herbert could not have looked any worse than he did on Monday night. Maybe a buy low spot here on the Chargers. We're going to kick it on over. Maybe see what Las Vegas Chris has to say about it. There we go. Las Vegas Chris here for one of the best looking teaser weeks in the NFL. I am locked and loaded. Tons of sides. So we're going to talk some teasers. We're going to talk some betting strategy. And don't forget, if you guys ever have a question for Chris, drop it in the comment sections and we will try to address it in some form or fashion here on the show. Chris, let's get into it.
I let everybody down last week. I listed off, I said I liked Seattle, Washington, and Houston and teasers, and they all won. But I said, I'm going to skip the teasers and keep the perfect teaser record alive. And instead, I gave out Baltimore and San Francisco on the money line. And San Francisco didn't hit that last field goal, unfortunately. So rough beat there. So we'll try to do better this week. That kind of reminds me, though, I had San Francisco in a lot of money line parlays that were plus money. And I thought I'd bring that up because what I wanted to do, I realized, well, wait a minute, I got all this plus money coming in. Let's hedge out of that a little bit. So how do I do that? I actually had some teasers, or I already had positions on Minnesota and San Francisco in the money line and Arizona. And boy, I got mixed up. I'm sorry. So what I ended up doing was I ended up 3-team teasing back the other way. Actually, it wasn't Arizona. It was Houston. So I didn't like Houston as much as I did earlier. So I was kind of queasy on that. I had too much money on San Francisco money line plus money. And I thought that the Bears were going to be a tight finish. So what I did was I bought back the opposite way on all three of those. So I had plus 19.5 with the Cleveland team. I had New Orleans plus 8, and I had the Bears plus 13 to basically protect my investment on that San Francisco loser. And that worked out really well. So that's another consideration that how teasers can be valuable for you if you do have, multiple positions developing where, well, wait a minute, I don't feel the same as when I placed them. Does that make sense, Kelly?
It does make sense. This is not something that I utilize all the time. Marco suggested, and it would have worked out last week when he said, I don't really like the Chargers and teasers, Kelly. And I said, come on, they play all these one-score games. Let's not overthink it. And he said, well, if you get a little too inundated on the Chargers, which I did, he goes, you should come back on Cowboys money line. Do you think I did that? No, I did not. Could have hit both sides. So I kind of understand this strategy, but I also think that bankroll comes into it a lot. And maybe some of our viewers, guests, however you like to call them, maybe don't have a big enough bankroll to be able to mitigate that risk.
Yeah, well, that's the issue. Is it depends on if you have credit or how well funded you are. It's definitely important to be well funded, just in case. If you're ever going to hit a big prize or a big play, and you get these buyout options from these casinos, trust me, they're always horrible. You shouldn't take them. But if you don't have the bankroll yourself to do your own hedging, well, that's how you get sucked into it. And that's why they offer it. So that's basically gold for them because they know that the people don't have the wherewithal to hedge properly. So they give them, they dangle a little carrot and say, hey, you want to buy out? And people take it. And the casino's jumping up and down because they crushed them for 20% of value.
Yeah, no, that is a thing I always tell people. Don't hit that cash out button. There are other ways to cash out, if you will. There's obviously places that will buy your futures bets and or at least sell them on a marketplace, if you will. There is also other ways to go to another casino, use your cash and cash out your own self. It's always an interesting thing, though, because you're right. It is easy. They start to see those numbers build up and they get a little nervous and think, okay, I should just lock in a profit, when in reality, they are costing themselves anywhere from 10 to, I would say, as high as maybe even 30%, depending on the sports book. All right, so let's get into it. We recapped week 6. I want to talk week 7 and give them some actionable info.
I noticed something unusual, kind of touches on what we've spoken about, and that is to evaluate money lines and using those. And what's the better option, a money line parlay or a teaser? And one of the examples I have would be Buffalo, Kansas City, and San Francisco. Now, on a money line parlay, you're getting minus or plus 136. But if you tease those with a 3-team 6-point teaser, you're going to sacrifice yourself Buffalo and have to lay -2. but you're going to get plus 160 or plus 170 for that shift. So compare what teaser prices may be if it fits this sort of criteria, and maybe you're going to get paid better on teaser parlays than you would on regular parlays. I don't think a lot of people would actually consider looking at it that way. And if you added a fourth team, let's just say Seattle, you get plus 204 on that money line parlay, but you get plus 250, plus 275, plus 300, depending on what your shop is, if you put those into a teaser, 4-team teaser. So make sure you kind of compare the two and see what's best for you in different situations.
All right. So, Chris, before I let you go, I do need a best bet from you this week in the NFL, please.
I'm going to add one more thing because it's a strange week. 3-team teasers we talked about last week. There's a handful of games that kind of fit a nice criteria to consider. Jacksonville, if you can get it to 11.5. Washington, plus 7.5. Atlanta, plus 12.5. Cleveland, plus 7.5. You're getting all over those key numbers. Another great one is Philadelphia, plus 7.5. Now, the reason the first ones were great, all those totals are 40 or lower. That's awesome. Imagine the value you're getting with 10 points. It's like the perfect storm if you like those teams. Philadelphia, though, plus 7.5, great line, but that total's over 50. So not the same amount of value. And we know Miami can light it up. So something to consider before throwing Philadelphia in there. As far as me,
Chris, I want to come back to that real quick. Sorry, just so I can just interject. Okay, so that was a how many point teaser?
10-point teasers. Those are 10-point teaser considerations.
What is the most amount you should be laying with a 10-point teaser?
It's usually 120 or 130.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because obviously everybody shops at multiple books around the country between locals, offshore, and of course the legal books here in the United States. So I just wanted that one caveat. And then the other caveat is if you guys missed on the Wager Talk Instagram channel, Chris talks about the big no-no of teasing through zero and why it's actually been profitable for him as of late. So if you guys are kind of wondering why he said Philly plus 7.5, but that's teasing through zero, head over there so you guys can see that. Now, Chris, I will let you give me your teaser for this week.
One last comment on the 3-teamers. Usually ties lose. So be aware that everything that I listed off falls on a half point. So we don't care that ties lose. So just be aware of that. And there's some places where regular 6.5, 7-point teasers lose. Those places are fine as long as you're on half points, but just be aware of it. Teaser I like, Atlanta plus 8.5, Seattle minus 1.5. I really like that. And I also like a moneyline parlay, Kansas City and San Francisco on Monday night.
Interesting. I am with you on the Seattle teaser, and we'll get to that here towards the end of the show. He is Las Vegas Chris at Las Vegas Chris on Twitter at Vegas Synergy. If you want to follow his handicapper account versus his personal, you can also check out all of his stuff on the Wager Talk Instagram channel. We're going to be featuring Chris a lot more because he is a wealth of knowledge. All right, Chris, I'm going to let you go and bring in somebody else who is a absolute wealth of knowledge. It's time for some of that gold with VR. There's the guy the comment section was going absolutely bananas about last week. He is back. And he is beautiful. Look at that beautiful smile. Give me some of that gold VR.
I saw that they missed me, Kelly. I always check, you know that. And because of that, I brought so much good stuff for you guys in the NFL. And again, whether you follow or fade it, I just want you to use the information to cash some tickets. I got some really good stuff for you. Real quickly, there's a trend for this week's NFL, and that's under. There's only one total that I saw get steamed over, and I actually like that one a lot. But every other move was towards an under. So whether it's weather related as we're getting into the fall and, weather will play a role, whether injuries are starting to pile up as you get further into the season, that happens. So dig in a little deep, you'll probably find some good reasons for it. But I can tell you the trend is definitely on unders. With that out of the way, let's dive right in. Start off on the Thursday night game. First half total. Over 19.5 all the way up to minus 125. Started betting the over 19.5 at minus 105 and kept betting it till it got to like that 20. Not sure where it's sitting now. A lot of times with first halves, you'll see some takebacks because points are worth obviously more in half the game. Less points are scored. So let's move on to Sunday's action. And real quickly, let me give you the offensive passing success rates and defensive passing success rate. There is few metrics out there, I don't know of many, with a higher correlation to victory. And what matters most is that you factor in the strength of schedule up until this far in the season. And that's what we have here. So I'm going to read you off the offensive top 10 and the defensive top 10. And more importantly, only 4 teams have a top 10 offense and defensive passing success rate. Those 4 teams are Baltimore, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, and Kansas City. The only 2 teams in the top 10 as far as offensively and defensively passing success rate. So real quickly on the offensive side, Miami, Baltimore, San Francisco, Detroit, and Buffalo, those are the top 5. Well, maybe next week we'll go to top to 10. That's a lot to give. And then on the defensive side, Cleveland, New Orleans, KC, Washington, and Baltimore. Those are the top 5 defensive passing success rate teams in the NFL up until this week. Very high correlation to victory. And again, only 4 teams are in both categories. Now let's move on to Sunday's action. Start off at the top, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, on the under right away. Be careful because it's public and wise guys. Those are the kind that worry me the most. They went under 40 and under 39. The reason you're seeing 37 is because public money's starting to bet it the exact same way. And then Buffalo, New England. Teaser protection immediately from the sharpest books out there. I actually put teasers in early in the week just to be able so I could use Buffalo. And I was afraid they may do that with Seattle as well. And I wanted to make sure I add them into teasers because the value they add on them is absolutely astronomical. And if any of you guys can get greater than 3-1 on a 4-team 6-point teaser or greater than 6-1 on a 6-team 6-point teaser, let me know in the comment section and I'll share those with you. I share the ones that I put in the steam room. We hit one last week. I already put in 3 this week. I'm not going to waste time reading off 8 teams. But if you guys do actually can get that kind of odds down, again, you need to get 6-1 on a 6-team 6-point teaser and better than 3-1 or better on a 4-team 6-point teaser. If you can do that, you get books that do that. I have tons of them, so it's out there. You get great plus EV bets. In fact, the 3 that I'm sharing are 20%, give you a 20% or greater edge. That's 10x what I have as a card counter. So it shows you just how strong those teasers are if you use the right numbers. And Buffalo was one of those teaser protection ones from the sharp books. And also the under, which I'm glad I teased it because you don't want to be laying chalk, heavy wood, when the team is betting that under, and the under is now down to 41. But the guys I bet for got down at 44, 43.5, and 43. So since then, probably a little public money as well. Maybe not, though. Could be other sharps piggybacking it because I can't see the public really betting under on Buffalo and New England. Let's move on to the Colts. Every time a 3 was available, it was bought up. So you know that's the buy order. If the Colts at +3 is the number that obviously appears to be plus EV for a number of groups that every time it popped up at a book, it was eaten up. And in that same game, the under, so again, the dog and under makes a little sense at 42.5 and 42. But it's another one where you have the public on the under as well. Those always worry me. And then finally, Detroit and Baltimore. Under 44.5, under 44. A few days later, a different group comes in and asks for over 41. It shows you just how tight these NFL lines are. Don't take bad numbers. You'll get buried taking bad numbers in the NFL. Get buried taking bad numbers in anything, but NFL especially. Then Washington Redskins. Here's a side for you. -1.5 and -2. And also under 41.5. Finally, one more under to share with you guys. That's Arizona and Seattle. under 46.5, under 46, and the one lone over, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the LA Rams over 42, 42.5, 43. I actually like that one a lot. And finally, this, I get it, you're going to have to bet this the night before, but you should have a little extra pocket money for the NFL. Don't get fooled into throwing money on Volkanovski as the plus money dog. Makhachev's the plus EV side. The opener in that first fight was minus 580. You got to lay only 250 on Saturday night because of that first fight. Are you kidding me? Volkanovski lost. Let's not forget that. He lost. Why is the adjustment there? Because Makhachev didn't run right over him. And when you're a minus 500 favorite, that's what you expect to see. But since we didn't see that, the books knew we're going to overreact. And of course, that's exactly what's happening. Because all I'm seeing at the casinos is nonstop Volkanovski money from the public. And I'm telling you now, even if it cashes, it's just not a great bet because of the huge adjustment from that first fight. And in the co-main event, take Chimaev inside the distance. You get that now, like minus 110 against Usman. Yeah, favorites. It looks like favorites for main and co-main on Saturday night. You guys have best of luck on Sunday as well. Make sure you go down, smash that like button. Give us some shout outs, some love in the comments. And again, let me know if you could get down on those teasers, and I'll yell out the ties that I tied up real quickly next week for you guys. Have a great weekend. Love you. Thanks again.
Just the best of the best. We're going to let VR go on that UFC note. Thank you to him for giving us 10 minutes of his time this week. We are going to get into these best bets for me, Marco, and Joe. All right, sticking with what has been working finally to cash some best bets. And no, that's not just fading the Arizona Cardinals, but as I mentioned with my Rams pick last week, the Cardinals looked good when they played opponents in the NFC East. And since then, they look like who we thought they were. Now, Josh Dobbs, while I don't want to bag on him, we're going to see kind of the middle of the road start to take a downward spiral. And because their talent is lackluster, this has just been too much for them to overcome. Last week in the second half, no touchdowns, 2 turnovers, and they were shut out. I expect to see more of the same. I know the Seahawks and Bengals were in a dog fight last week, and while the Bengals did come out victorious, the Seahawks, I think, are going to get a nice bounce back here at home against the Cardinals, who just scored 19.5 points per game. No more James Conner, and the defense is mediocre at best. 0-3, straight up 0-3 ATS skid. This is also my survivor pick. So kind of two things going hand in hand here to equate to a best bet. Let's hope the Seahawks can get this one done. I think they're also an excellent teaser spot. Marco D'Angelo, who is your best bet for NFL Week 7?
All right, for my best bet, full disclosure, Joe, I almost went with your barking dog in my barking dog segment, but the reason I didn't is because I'm using a best bet. I'm not using the game. I'm using the total in the Charger game, and I just didn't want Brandon Staley to be able to screw me twice with 2 different wagers. So I said, now I'll stay away from the Chargers, but I agree with you there as the barking dog, and you'll see why. I'm taking the over in this game. And as you've said, all of these games that these 2 teams have played have been close games. Nobody knows Kansas City better than the Chargers or have had better success against them. They still always seem to come up short, but it's just short. But the key to that is they score points against Kansas City, which means Andy Reid can't take his foot off the gas like he likes to do so often in other games. Last week, they never really had to put their pedal to the metal because Denver couldn't get out of their own way for most of that game, so it was never in doubt. But what we saw was, because we had 2 drastically low-scoring games last week, Denver and Kansas City on Thursday night, and then Dallas and the Chargers on Monday night, and yes, both of them were TV games. Both of them got saw by the entire country. So what happens? An overreaction. We've seen this total move 3 points Tuesday because of overreaction from those 2 games. Trust me, both teams are going to score in this game. And because they will trade points means they can't take their foot off the gas, they'll keep scoring points. I'm going up and over the 48 points in this one. And if you look at these games here, the Chargers, the last 3 seasons, following a loss, they have gone over in their next game 12 out of 15 times. And it's not even been close. The average score in those games, those 15 games, 54.2 points per game. And you look at these games that these teams have played the last 2 seasons, 57, 51, 62, 54 total points scored. I'm going over the total here. Maybe it looks too easy, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to do what the eyes see. And my eyes see both teams going up and down the field. Give me the over for this one.
Marco, sometimes the eye test is better than the numbers, and that is how the NFL has kind of been this year. Joe, who's the team that passed the eye test for you this week?
Well, I figured if it ain't broke, let's not fix it, and let's keep it simple. I'm going to give a teaser as the best bet here this week. However, I will give you a hint on the game that I really, really liked. And if I hear one more person tell me how great Detroit is and how it's a no-brainer to take the 3 points on the road to Baltimore, we're going to have another conversation on this show next week. Let's see how that works out for you. But for the show, in this case, I'm just going to say very simply, I think you nailed it with Seattle. In fact, Seattle teasing them down to under a field goal to 2 is an absolute no-brainer. They have now, the last 3 against the Cardinals, 8, 10, and 10 is what they have won those games by, with 2 of those being on the road. It is not a great matchup for Arizona in any way, shape, or form, although chances are they'll be very competitive in the first half because they are in every game, and then they end up throwing up all over themselves and get blown out in the second half, which isn't a bad angle either. But the other half of that teaser has got to be the Buffalo Bills taking on the lowly New England Patriots. And yes, big road favorites, not ideal in a teaser spot, unless, of course, you're talking about Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. The Bills have scored the 3rd most points in the league and have given up the 4th fewest. They are not going to miss the opportunity now after getting their clocks right from the trip to London and figuring out, like, you got to be kidding me, almost losing that game to Dable and the Giants. They will not almost lose this game at all. They have won the last 4 against Bill Belichick, I believe, by double digits. I don't see any reason not to tease them down to under a field goal here at -2.5. I think it's one of many possible teasers you can go with, but this is the one that I like the most here for this week.
Yep, that is on my teaser list as well. Lots of great teaser options this week here in the NFL, but we got to wrap it up. I've got other shows to do. It is a busy Wednesday over here on Bet On It. So let's throw up that graphic for everybody who scrolled to the end. And it's time to say thank you for hanging out with us each and every week here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show as much as we all enjoyed doing it. From Marco, Joe, Ralph, VR, Las Vegas Chris, Andy, and myself, good luck this week in the NFL. Until next week, let's bet on it.